Welcome to the Heart-Led Business Show, where compassion meets commerce and leaders lead with love. Join your host, Tom Jacobs, as he delves into the insightful conversations with visionary business leaders who defy the status quo, putting humanity first and profit second. From heartfelt strategies to inspiring stories, this podcast is your compass in the world of conscious capitalism. So buckle up and let your heart guide your business journey.
Well, hello, fabulous listeners. Today on the Heart-Led Business Show, we're going deep into the dazzling world of portrait photography with none other than Jeffrey Shaw. From humble beginnings to the halls of Harvard, Jeffrey has captured the essence of the elite and empowered the self-employed. We'll explore how this heart-led entrepreneur built a portrait empire while celebrating the spirit of self-employment. So buckle up for some insights, inspiration, and a little sprinkle of brilliance. Jeffrey, welcome to the show.
Hey, Tom, thank you so much for having me on. It's great to be here with you.
That's so good. I'm so excited to talk to you about, because it's not common that I have very creative people on the show. Mostly it's health and wellness folks and things like that. So I'm excited to get your take on what it is all about to be a heart-led business. So my first question, though, is always, what's your definition of a heart-led business?
Yeah. For me, my definition is that it's from where you're making your decisions, right? To me, it's like to be whatever it is that you're led by, you're leading by what is your source by which you make your decisions. I'll give you a kind of a practical example, which might make it easier to see. So in my coaching work, the people I work with who are heart-led, purpose-driven people, type of business owners, that's who I coach, it's who I attract. And one of the things I want to attract, but one of the things I point out to them is that I teach them an impact-based business model versus an income-based business model to help them get away from the practical message that we get in business, that you should make all your decisions from income. You should make your decisions based on where you're making your money. If you are a heart-led business or you're in business to make an impact, that's the wrong business model, because you will almost always be putting effort and action towards a part of your business or your entire business prior to it making money. Right? If you're an impact business or a heart-led business, you're almost always putting effort towards something that the money will follow. So for example, if you desire to be a speaker, I can tell you, it's going to take you 2-3 years of a lot of effort to get any recognition to be a speaker, long before the money equals the effort. So that to me is what it means to be an impact-based business model, where you're making your decisions from the impact you want to make. So similarly, I look at a heart-led business the same way. That where are you making your decisions from? Are you making your decisions from your heart? It might defy practicality. It might not make sense. A traditional business coach might tell you that's stupid. But if you're making, heart-led is to actually make your decisions from your heart and truly believe that decision will lead you to where you want to go, which if you're a heart-led business owner is likely to making an impact, helping people, supporting people, and bettering people's lives.
Yeah, that's the first definition of impact versus income, and having that type of business model. I like that a lot. That really helped. I think it's going to help a lot of people just really crystallize like what is the difference. And I love how you explain, impact. It will be a little bit of a struggle at first, but the benefits are going to outweigh that. Once
if you're an impact-based business, there's a lag time between the effort and the reward. And I'm so glad you appreciate that, because again, a little bit of my story, I've been self-employed my entire life. I've never had a traditional job. So from the age of 14, selling eggs door to door. By 20 years old, I was a professional photographer. And by 23, I was a family photographer for the most wealthy families in the United States. So I've never received a paycheck from anyone other than myself. So I've had to figure this. I've had to turn the conventional world upside down, because we're in this world that tells you make your decisions from income, make your decisions from what's practical. And when you're a heart-led business, the whole world feels backwards to you. And I realized that the detriment of that is not only the world you're living in, but it's also the amount of energy we exhaust. Imagine living in a country where you don't speak the language. and you're having to translate in your mind all the time. That's what it feels like, I think, when you're a heart-led business living in a very conventional minded world, that you're
Yeah.
constantly translating. So I've done all the translations. That's why, that's how I coach today. It's how I teach, because I tell people, I've done all the translations. Don't exhaust yourself. Let me help you. And here's one of them: impact-based decisions versus income-based decisions.
Yeah. You're basically a native speaker in impact-based
Well, when you've been
at that point.
self-employed your whole life, man, you've been in the trenches and you've seen it all. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I have had a corporate job before, but I'm definitely unemployable at this point in my life.
And when you've never had a traditional job, that becomes the fantasy, right? The grass is greener over there. And on my lowest moments, I've said, God, maybe I should just get a corporate job. It just looks like, the security, the all the security comes with it, and it looks like fun hanging out with other people. And my son, who's always been, a source of wisdom for me, he's always looking and said, Dad, you're completely unemployable. He's 100% right. I would be a horrible employee.
Yeah. Well, do you even have a resume or a CV at this point?
And here's the, look what's happening on LinkedIn, right? I've had a LinkedIn account since day one, but LinkedIn was originally this world for online resumes, which I had no value in. I was never looking for a job, and I was never going to hire people for a creative business from LinkedIn. Look at it today. LinkedIn is like the place for heart-led businesses. It is a platform of personal brands now, which is why they've morphed. And I've interviewed a lot of the LinkedIn executives on my show, my own podcast. And they flat out say, they see this as the heart-led personal brands. This is the future of the world. This is the future of the world they want to create. So they're supporting personal stories, supporting authentic personalities, supporting heart-led individuals and businesses on their own platform. But no, I've never had a resume, CV. If you asked me 5 years ago what a CV was, I don't know if I knew. I had to ask. Actually, I can remember exactly. It was in 2009. I was doing my coach training, and people kept talking about C-suite. I had to ask somebody what C-suite meant. That was not a term familiar to me. It's like, oh, CEO, CFO, CEO. Now I didn't know what C-suite meant. It wasn't my world.
That's awesome. And that's great, because no reason for that to know the corporate.
I was the see everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's the room where you can overlook the whole factory.
Exactly.
And see you. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your business and what inspired you to have a heart-led business in the first place.
Yeah, here's the thing, and this, my own personal journey of this is that I've been in business over 40 years. So I can't say, so I went into business at 20. So do the math, I'm 60. But I went into business, I know, lots of cream. I look 30, but I went into business at 20 with a very typical business mindset. I went to photography school, got out of photography school, was going to start a business. Not understanding anything other than what the world was around me, it was not a heart-led business. It was just a business, right? With a location and, a formula to establish your prices that I remember was given to me in photography school. Your cost of goods times, plus overhead times XYZ. And I followed that formula so verbatim that the first time I showed my price list, I had a printed price list. I showed it to the executive director of the photography school I went to when I went back to visit one day. A price of an 8x10 was $48.02. I didn't see how, I didn't even see in the price list how ridiculous that was until he pointed out. He's like, 2 cents? I'm like, well, I was given a formula, and I followed at 20 years old. I'll give myself some grace. I was 20. I followed that formula verbatim, and that's what it was. So at 20 years old, I can't say I in any way was starting a business that was heart-led. By 23, after 3 years of struggling and realizing, okay, the business I built was never going to work. I built a photography business in my hometown, which was a middle to lower middle class community. And here I was trying to sell what would be considered high-end photography, because even $48.02 for an 8x10 was expensive for that community. Because they were used to going to Olin Mills and Sears for $9.99. So even that was considered high. And I realized I was barking up the wrong tree. I'm trying to convince people the value of these high-end photographs gorgeous quality, passed down from generation to generation. And after 3 years, I was failing because it was clear that people didn't value what I valued. And nobody's worrying about preserving the children's memories if they can't pay their mortgage that month. So
True.
after 3 years, I had to completely reinvent myself. And that's when I realized, oh, I am meant to serve an affluent clientele. And when I say meant, I mean that sincerely. I did the work. I looked at my values. I was like, at a critical moment in my failing photography business, I realized that I had a choice to make. I could adapt not just my business, but I could compromise my values to match the market I was in, or I could own my values and find the people that appreciated that. And I realized that people that would appreciate these ideas I had for quality, beautiful art-like portraits, people that would have that valued preserving for the future. Like you have to have discretionary income that relates to affluent people. So I figured that out. The problem was I grew up in this lower middle class community, small town in upstate New York. I knew nothing about rich people. That's when it became a heart-led business. That's when, to me, it became a business where I wouldn't have called it heart-led, but what I put ahead of everything else was understanding the people I was going to serve. And in a way, I was at an advantage because I didn't come from their world. So I didn't understand the world of rich people at all. It became a heart-led business because I put who they were, how they behaved, their minds. I wanted to know everything about what made rich people tick. And I did the work. Yeah. I studied their behavior. I went to high-end stores in New York City and I studied their behavior. I studied how stores were laid out, merchandised, styled, branded. And I did it all without even an iota of judgment or assumption, thankfully. And I would tell her that's step number one. Because I could have had a lot of judgments because I've heard all the stereotypes of rich people growing up, right? Or people hate rich people and they make fun of them and make all these stereotypes. Thankfully, I think it made me curious. Like, is it true?
Is it true? Right.
None of it was true. 40 years of serving this, high net worth individuals, none of it was true. But what made it heart-led was caring about who I was going to serve above all else, above even myself. I wanted to know what made them tick, what they valued, what their decision process was, how they behaved, what was attractive to them. So that's what made it become heart-led as a photographer. We're talking, 35 plus years ago, and that's still the way it is today. Everything I do for myself, my clients, from a stage as a speaker, the number one thing I am talking about is putting the people you serve first and leading with that heart.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And there's a couple things in there that I'd love to unpack a little bit more. The allowing your I'm going to paraphrase incorrectly, I think a little bit, but allowing your values to go to the level of the market, whether that's value up or value down. I love that. That is such an interesting concept. And I can see that I've made that mistake in the past, making decisions based on a market that may or may not have been the right fit.
Yeah.
And I think so many businesses do that. How did you come up with that idea, or what was the impetus around looking at it that way?
Yeah. And honestly, you're compromising more than your decisions, if you will. Like, to me, even at 23 years old, I felt like if I compromise, if I lower my standards, if I lower even my prices that represent the quality and the standards and my mission, I really felt like it could have been the saddest moment of my life, because I felt like I'd be giving myself up. Like, I'd be throwing myself under the bus to lower my standards to match the market that I felt like I could fit into. Not to mention, in a practical sense, that I've, again, also heart-led is for the other, but it's also being heart-led for yourself. And I have made every decision in my 40-year career from a lifestyle decision first. How do I want to live? And how do I build a business and lifestyle around that matches how I wanted to live? And what I knew even then, I was a hard worker, disciplined, but if I lowered my prices to match the market, I'd be working 10 times harder than I needed to. And that was a big decision factor for me. So it was a gamble. And I know at 23 years old, that's not a gamble, but I was married at 20. So at 23 years old, I was already married, had an apartment, I had expenses, I had a life as built. And probably the scariest thing of all, honestly, Tom, this is all I knew how to do. I grew up in this lower middle class community. College wasn't an option. Like nobody could afford college. I had a guidance counselor in high school. I don't think I ever mentioned college. Like, it just was like you went to high school, you graduated, and actually it was the area was dominated by IBM. I grew up where IBM started. My father was one of the first 90 employees at IBM.
Oh, wow.
If you can imagine that. So I grew up in this, area where that's all you knew is you went to school and then you went to IBM. So, for me, my talent was the only way out of this world. So the sacrifice that was at stake was so big. It was, like I said, it was more than just compromising on your business decisions. It was compromising on your life. And I just refused to do it. And that more than anything just ingrained in me. It's like, well, there's something fundamental I share with so many of my coaching clients and people I teach is that you have to fundamentally believe there's a world of people out there waiting for you to show up. No matter what you sell, no matter what your values are, no matter how quirky you might be, I guarantee you, there's a world of people out there somewhere waiting for you to show up. Let's figure out where they are, what they need, and how we speak to them so that they know that you're there for them. Business 101. But to me, this is a heart-led business. You're leading with believing there's a world of people out there waiting for you to show up. Now do them the favor of being true to yourself and showing up for them.
Absolutely. And with 8 billion people and 330 million people in the US, there's definitely enough business to support the heart-led business when you do it the right way. And that's great. The other thing that you mentioned also is the research that you did for your market. That is absolutely brilliant, especially for a 23-year-old. I don't know what I was thinking at 23. It was like I was working at Radio Shack, selling semiconductor little geodes or whatever. Geode.
And how much of your audience remember what Radio Shack is?
Exactly.
Where we used to go buy CBs, right?
Yeah. CBs, yeah. That was so much fun. But doing that research and going to where your market hangs out, identifying what it is that they like, how they talk, how they act, that's brilliant. And more businesses need to do that to really understand their market.
100%. One of the things, I spoke earlier about, when you've lived in this world of figuring things out because you're self-employed your whole life, this is one of the things I figured out where I often I have an educational program called the Exceptional Business Academy. And basically, to summarize, the Exceptional Business Academy is where I take all my experience in the luxury space and the luxury marketing and what it takes to appeal to and satisfy the most uncompromising clients on the planet. I take all that information and offer it to non-luxury businesses, everyday business, and say, look, imagine this. Imagine you had the inside secrets of what makes Cartier, Tiffany. Like, imagine what your non-luxury business can be like and how you can stand out if you had the inside secrets. So that's what I teach at the Exceptional Business Academy. So I often, in fact, we literally have a chart. That's the ordinary world and the exceptional world. Right? So because that's been my translation my whole life. It's like, well, the ordinary world thinks this way. The exceptional world thinks this way. And where the ordinary world might see it as research or developing an avatar, the exceptional world, I went to those places not because I was looking to define an ideal client or an avatar. I went there in the exceptional world. You go there to embody the life of the people that you want to serve. You're not just learning it in your head, you're embodying it in your body. Like, what does it feel like to walk into a high-end store? Why? What's the psychology? And I'll give you an example. On the high-end market, you will rarely see a cash register. So if you're shopping in the most exclusive stores, the cash registers are actually in back rooms. So the sales associates will take your credit card, take your merchandise into a back room and come back with it, perhaps beautifully wrapped, or you go to a different department to get it wrapped. But you don't see the transaction of money. You go to Walmart, Target, the cash registers are lined up like cattle corral.
Right.
Think about the and this has been one of the most fascinating psychologies to me because it seems so upside down. Like, why
Mhm.
in the market where people can't afford things as easily do you make the money more obvious? Whereas on the high end, where money isn't an issue, why is it less obvious? It's actually because it's a transactional mindset. The luxury market isn't thinking transactions because transactions aren't a big deal to them. They're thinking emotions and experience. So in the high end, you want to strip away the transaction. And I suggest this to high end businesses all the time. Like, what's your payment process? It should be minimal number of steps, as easy as could be, because your wealthy clientele doesn't want to deal with transactions. They don't live in a transactional world. They live in an experiential world. So,
Mhm.
I found all this fascinating and I wanted to understand the psychology of everything. And yeah, I agree. At 23 years old, I look back at it now and I'm like, I don't know where that instinct came from. Just massive
You're brilliant.
curiosity.
That's why.
But it really is about embodying it. Like, you don't just learn it. I even to
Yeah.
this day, I tell my clients, go, particularly the luxury clients and luxury businesses that I work with, I tell them, go to the most expensive places you can imagine. You don't have to buy a thing, just embody it. Like, go where the money is dripping off the walls so you can feel it, so you can understand there's an abundance of the world, even in times when it feels like the shit's hitting the fan. You can go somewhere to feel like, just know there's still an abundance available out to you. You need to really feel that, and that's what will keep you going. So to me, I focus on embodying, being led with our heart and embodying the people we serve, their
Yeah.
lifestyle, the lifestyle you want. And don't just learn it, don't just build an avatar, but understand them at a deep level.
Yeah. And you're completely so accurate on the luxury brands and the huge difference. Like even the five-star hotels, you know, you aren't going to see the a glass wall and a little hole where you speak through and get the key.
Yeah.
You, there generally there's no desk, or it's a very cash kind of off in a corner or something like that. It's about the experience. The other thing that's really like you go into like a Louis Vuitton and the smell is much different than if you
Yeah.
go to Kmart or
Yeah.
Walmart.
Yeah, that's one of the
So much.
keys. One of the key secrets of luxury is it's an entire environment. Like,
Mm,
it's not
that's
any
great.
one thing. It's not the brand that they built. It's not their reputation. It's certainly not the quality. I mean, there's plenty of Main Street jewelers that are every bit as good, perhaps, as Tiffany, but it's a whole ecosystem. Everything is considered. No no T is missed. Like, everything's crossed. Like, that's what makes a luxury brand exceptional. And when you dig into the what they've created, and this way it was in my photography business, like, there was there, if it were an 8-cylinder engine, you don't get away with 6 of those cylinders firing. Like, you are held to a high standard all the time. And I always point this out with my consulting clients, that when you're working with the most uncompromising clientele on the planet. Now, I'm very careful in my choice of words there because I
Yeah.
dislike the clientele being referred to as discerning, because
Oh,
discerning is almost always said with an insult. Like, oh, they're a very discerning clientele. I feel like energetically you're calling them picky, unnecessarily picky, where
okay.
they're just uncompromising, and nor should they be. Like, they have gotten to a
Right.
point in their lives where they're not into compromising. Right? They don't compromise on what they purchase, where they live, compromise on how many homes they want. They want it all, and they've earned it all. So they're an uncompromising clientele. So when you're working with them, one thing I can tell you without a doubt with an uncompromising clientele is that their antennas are raised higher than everybody else. So you have to
Mm.
operate at a whole other level, because they will smell your insincerity, your inauthenticity. They will smell dishonesty a million miles away. Like, I always tell clients, if you want to serve the luxury market because you think the roads are paved with gold, they will smell that a million miles away and you will go nowhere. Right? It's what I actually refer to as, in my keynotes, I refer to this as your diamond edge factor. Like, what's your
Mm.
diamond edge factor? And your diamond edge is figuring out why this uncompromising clientele is the market you're meant to serve. Why are you meant to serve them? That's bigger than the money and bigger than trying to keep up with their demands. All right, you
Mm.
have to find for yourself an internal reason, being led by your heart, you have to determine for yourself, why do you feel meant to serve this clientele that's bigger than the money? Because they'll smell that too far away. It's one of the advantages, I think, of working with an uncompromising clientele is they require you to be of what I refer to as clean energy more than any other market. Like, you have to be clean. You have to be clean in your intentions, your behavior, your integrity, because if you're not, they'll know it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Like even or even compromising folks sometimes can see that insincerity and that BS a mile away. Yeah, for sure. That's fascinating.
And
the other thing that you unpack.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh,
go ahead. I'll let you, I was going to say add to that, but go ahead.
Well, that care more for the client than for yourself. And just that phrase alone just really embodies what heart-led is all about.
Mm-hmm.
And when you do that, I feel like that the client, one, appreciates it, of course, who wouldn't, but it's going to come back over and over and over again versus if you were just looking at a spreadsheet and looking at, okay, who are my top clients? Okay, this one spent so much with me. I like them. This one hasn't spent so much. I don't necessarily like them so much. And you're putting them on a value spectrum versus how much do I care about them? How much do I enjoy working with them? And generally, if you look at the value like that they bring to you, the ones that you care about, the one that you really enjoy, those are the higher value clients and higher margin, more profit. It works out so well.
Yeah, on a basic level, because we all know the experience. Like, those clients that you bend over backward for and jump through hoops for, they're almost always the biggest hassle and least profitable. And then there are the clients that are the easiest to work with, that are the most profitable. Like, you want more of those. But to your point, like, I think, yes, it's putting their hearts up before your own, but not throwing yourself under the bus. Like, let's not, ignore that. It's not just about lacking self-care, but also your rewards for doing this work, your rewards for having clean energy are significant. You can build your own wealth, can be the reward of actually leading with your heart. And it should be. And I can almost guarantee, especially in today's world, it will be. And I say that because the biggest change I've seen in my life over a 40-year span of business is that people today in the last several years, and again, biggest shift in the world is the degree to which people make decisions based on how they feel about somebody versus you're the best in your field. I started my business in the 80s. I could have been a complete jerk, but I was the photographer. I was the well-known amongst affluent families. I had the brand, I had the reputation. People wanted me as the label of their family photographer. I could have been a jerk and they would have hired me. And I know that because those very same people were hiring the interior designer at the time and complaining about that interior designer being horrible to work with, but he or she was the one to have. Today, you will not get away with that. People have to like you more than they want you to do a good job, but you could be the best in your field, but they won't work with you if energetically they don't feel like you're somebody they want to be with. So knowing that change, I think there's just no doubt heart-led businesses are the future. If our clientele and if consumers of the world are going to make decisions on how they energetically feel about somebody, those that are leading with their heart and showing up in clean energy are going to win. So let's not ignore the rewards and benefits of actually being a heart-led business. It's certainly not about throwing you under the bus. And I also want to add to that this is where getting so clear on who you're meant to serve is important. My next book, my third book, comes out in April. It's called Sell to the Rich. Unpacks all of this. My favorite line in that book, and I wrote it, it brought tears to my eyes. I go back to it. My favorite line in an entire book is, I knew who my clients were so well. I loved them before I met them, and I only grew to love them more after I worked with them. Like, I was so clear. I defined my ideal clients were what I called family-centric affluent families. Okay, they weren't all affluent families because there are plenty of affluent families that don't put their family first. I worked with people that a family of 4 might have had a staff of 8 or 10 people running the house, housekeepers, nannies, the whole bit. But they did so the parents could go to the soccer games and the ballet recitals. Those parents were families. Their children were their world. They were investing in their children's futures. And guess what? They loved to invest in preserving the memories and a representation of the lifestyle they built. I was their choice, and that's who I was meant to serve. I love affluent people that put their children first. It moves me. You're that person. I love you, and I haven't even met you yet. When I meet you and I get to know you and you invite me into your home, into your holiday parties, and I get to know I'm going to fall in love with your kids, I'm just going to love you more. But the advantage of being so clear on who you're meant to serve is you have the opportunity to love them, be led with your heart before you've even met them. Now imagine what that feels like in business. No fear of working with the client who's going to make you miserable. But I knew, and I feel this way as a coach as well. I love who I coach before I even met them, because I only work with people that are so aligned with who I know I'm meant to serve that there's just no doubt that we're going to have a loving, heart-led relationship.
Yeah. That warms my heart.
Mine too.
Yeah. I mean, it's so beautiful and just so on brand with being heart-led and helping others at a very high level as well. So great. More businesses need to take this advice. If you're listening out there, definitely take this advice and go with it, and your business is going to thrive.
Yeah, and I'll to that point, I'll just mirror that or echo that by saying, please do, because the number one advice I'm giving to people right now in the times we're living in is because it's just chaotic. I don't care. I'm not getting into politics. It's chaotic. The world is chaotic. And the number one thing I tell people is take care of your own world. If everybody just takes care of their own world, don't stop growing, don't stop trying to be heart-led, don't stop trying to grow your business, investing in your business and personal growth. Don't stop. Take care of your own world. I guarantee you, the more people that do that, the global impact can calm the complexity. And there's a wonderful Native American story about just that, about a little tiny hummingbird filling up his beak, trying to put out a wildfire. And a jaguar says to the hummingbird, laughing at him, that's not going to do anything. And he says, I know that, but this is my home. This is where I live. This is what the forest feeds me. I need to do my part. And, by Native American folklore, the universe heard the hummingbird and sent a downpour of rain to put out the fire. So it's this story that's handed down in Native American cultures to share just that. It's just do your part. Just do your part, and something miraculous can happen. And I think that's the best thing we can do right now. So, be heart-led. Please do your part.
Yeah, absolutely. And business will come. Yeah. Jeffrey, this has been just an amazing conversation. I'm looking at the clock. I'm like, oh my gosh, we've been going on, and it doesn't feel like it at all. But tell us, how can people learn more about your coaching, your business, and get in touch with you?
Sure. So honestly, I first go to my website, and I don't often just give out my website because, it's usually I give out a lead magnet or something. But in this case, I'm just going to say, go to my website, jeffreyshaw.com. Spelling Jeffrey correctly, Jeffrey, jeffreyshaw.com, because honestly, I think I'm very transparent, pure, and heart-led on my website. And if you don't see that, or if you don't see it, let me know. And if you do see it, let me know. But I continually, and again, I'm 40 years in. Just last night, I completely rewrote my LinkedIn profile, every part of it, from the about to the description of my services, because I felt like I had a more heart-led way of writing it today than I had a year ago or months ago. So I'm constantly, and even on my website, my about page, people visit all the time because I flat out on my about page say, here are my 6 values and why. I list my values, my uncompromising values. I list the organizations that I support. So just go to jeffreyshaw.com, live in my brand, my world, which hopefully will feel luxurious, as well as I think you'll know who I am. And if you're still confused, let me know.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And Jeffrey, thank you for spending the time with me today and with our audience. I really do appreciate it.
My pleasure.
And thank you, listeners, for listening into the show or watching it on YouTube. I really do appreciate it. Make sure you're checking out everything that Jeffrey's doing. We're going to link all of that up into the show notes, even put some links to his books in there as well. make sure you're checking that out and seeing what true luxury brand can do for your heart-led business. And definitely take the advice that he gave today and be more heart-led in your business. And until next time, lead with your heart.
You've been listening to the Heart-Led Business Show, hosted by Tom Jacobs. Join us next time for another inspiring journey into the heart of business.